Vinyl records once filled Black homes with soul, funk, and rhythm and blues. Many of these albums now sit forgotten in attics across America, worth absolute fortunes. The story of why some became priceless reveals something powerful about Black music history. Here are 25 vintage vinyl records from Black households that collectors will never forget. First pressing Stevie Wonder albums from Motown Records are among the most sought-after vinyl in existence today. When little Stevie Wonder burst onto the scene in the early 60s, Black families rushed to buy his records, never imagining those albums would become valuable treasures. First pressings of albums like Talking Book and Intervisions from the 70s now fetch thousands of dollars, especially those with original Motown labels and intact gatefold covers. The condition matters tremendously because so many copies were played until the grooves wore thin from constant use. Black households loved Stevie deeply, spinning his records at parties, family gatherings, and quiet Sunday afternoons. Collectors search specifically for the early Tamla label pressings before Motown standardized their look. The music that once provided the soundtrack to Black joy and struggle has become something serious collectors will pay almost anything to own. Original Stax Records 45 singles with the authentic Memphis sound are worth serious money to collectors who understand their historical importance. Stax was the label that gave the world Otis Redding, Booker T, and the MGs, and the Bar-Kays. Those early singles pressed in Memphis carried a raw soul sound that changed music forever. Black families across the South kept stacks of these 45s in boxes and cabinets, playing them on portable record players and jukeboxes in corner stores. The original pressings on the yellow and brown Stax label are especially valuable because they represent the label before Atlantic Records distribution changed everything. Many of these singles were played once or twice and then tucked away, surviving in near mint condition for decades. The Memphis sound on original vinyl has a warmth and depth that reissues cannot replicate. For collectors of authentic soul music, finding an original Stax 45 in a Black family's collection is like discovering buried treasure. Early James Brown singles on King and Federal Records represent the foundation of funk and soul, and original copies are now worth thousands of dollars. The Godfather of Soul recorded some of the most important music in American history, and Black families were among the first to recognize his genius. Singles like Please 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 from 1956 and Try Me from 1958 on the Federal label are extremely rare in good condition because they were played constantly at house parties and juke joints across America. The King Records pressings from the 60s are equally valuable, especially promotional copies sent to radio stations that somehow survived. James Brown was more than an entertainer to Black communities. He was a symbol of pride and self-determination, and his records were treasured accordingly. Those early singles with original labels intact and minimal wear can fetch prices that would stun the families who bought them for less than $1 at corner record shops. The Temptations' first pressings on the Gordy label are highly collectible because they capture Motown at its creative peak. From My Girl to Ain't Too Proud to Beg, the five men from Detroit created harmonies that defined an era. Black households across America kept these albums spinning on their turntables, the voices of David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks filling living rooms with emotion. First pressings from the mid-60s on the Gordy subsidiary label are worth considerably more than later reissues because of their superior sound quality and historical significance. The original pressings used higher quality vinyl and better mastering techniques that audiophiles can immediately recognize. Collectors look for specific label variations and matrix numbers that identify true first editions. Many Black families owned every Temptations album released during the 60s and 70s, and those complete collections in good condition are worth thousands today. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, the original 1971 Tamla pressing, is considered one of the most important albums ever recorded, and it commands premium prices. This groundbreaking record tackled war, poverty, and environmental destruction at a time when Black artists were expected to stay in their lane. Black families understood immediately that Marvin was speaking truth, and they bought the album in massive numbers. Original Tamla pressings with the gatefold cover and lyric sheet intact are especially valuable to collectors. First pressings can be identified by specific label characteristics and matrix numbers that distinguish them from later editions. The album's message of social consciousness resonated deeply in Black communities during the Civil Rights era and beyond. Marvin fought Motown executives to release this album, and its success changed what was possible for Black artists. For collectors of socially conscious soul music, owning an original What's Going On is essential. Diana Ross and the Supremes, mono pressings from the 60s, are worth significantly more than their stereo counterparts to serious collectors today. Before stereo became standard, Motown released most of their singles and early albums in mono format, and these pressings have a punchy, direct sound that collectors strongly prefer. Black households bought Supremes records by the millions, making Diana Ross a household name and a symbol of Black glamour, beauty, and success. The original mono pressings on the Motown label with the distinctive map of Detroit are particularly sought after by collectors who understand pressing history and sound quality. These records captured the girl group sound at its peak, with songs that still define the era decades later. Many families kept their Supremes albums in pristine condition because the covers featured Diana's beautiful face, making them too precious to damage or discard. Those mint condition mono pressings are now worth serious money. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles Tamla originals represent the very beginning of the Motown sound, and they are highly prized by collectors. Smokey was there from the start, helping Berry Gordy build the empire that would change American music forever. Black families recognized his genius early, buying singles like Shop Around and The Tracks of My Tears, and playing them until they knew every word. The earliest Tamla pressings are especially valuable because they document the birth of what would become the sound of young America. These records were pressed in smaller quantities before Motown became a national phenomenon, making original copies genuinely rare. Collectors search for specific label variations that indicate true first pressings from the early 60s. Smokey's smooth voice and poetic lyrics spoke directly to Black experiences of love and heartbreak. Those original Tamla singles and albums are now worth hundreds or thousands of dollars to serious collectors. The Four Tops album Reach Out, the first Motown pressing, is one of the most collectible soul albums from the 60s. Levi Stubbs and his group delivered some of the most emotionally powerful performances in Motown history, and Black families responded by making their records absolutely essential purchases. The original 1967 pressing with the distinctive map label and intact gatefold sleeve is particularly valuable because many copies were damaged through years of loving, constant use. The single Reach Out, I'll Be There became an anthem of hope and connection that still resonates deeply in Black communities today. First pressings can be identified by examining the label design, the matrix numbers scratched in the dead wax, and specific cover printing details. The Four Tops represented working-class Black masculinity and brotherhood, four men who stuck together loyally for decades. Their original pressings in excellent condition are worth serious money because they capture lightning in a bottle during Motown's golden era. Isaac Hayes' Hot Buttered Soul, the original Enterprise pressing from 1969, revolutionized what a soul album could be and is now extremely valuable. This groundbreaking record featured extended tracks that stretched past 10 minutes, challenging everything the music industry thought it knew about Black music. Black households were mesmerized by Isaac Hayes' deep voice and lush orchestrations, playing this album at parties where couples slow dance to By the Time I Get to Phoenix. The original Enterprise label pressing with Stax distribution is worth significantly more than later reissues because of its superior sound quality. Isaac Hayes proved that Black artists could create sophisticated, complex music that demanded respect. The cover featuring his bald head and chains became iconic, and original copies with pristine covers are especially valuable. For collectors of groundbreaking soul music, Hot Buttered Soul represents a crucial moment when everything changed. The Curtis Mayfield Superfly soundtrack, first pressing from 1972, is one of the most valuable and important soul albums of the 70s. This groundbreaking record proved that Black artists could create complete artistic statements that rivaled anything in film or popular music. Black communities embraced the album because Curtis told their stories honestly, addressing poverty, drug addiction, and the daily struggle for survival in urban America. Every song on Superfly became a classic, from Pusherman to Freddie's Dead, and Black families knew every single word by heart. Curtis Mayfield created something unprecedented, a soundtrack that completely overshadowed the film it was meant to accompany. The original Curtom label first pressing is significantly more valuable than later editions because of the specific mastering techniques used for the initial release. Original pressings in excellent condition with intact gatefold covers are worth thousands of dollars today to serious collectors. The original epic pressing of Stand By Sly and the Family Stone from 1969 captured a revolutionary moment in American music and is highly valuable today. This album proved Black artists could blend rock, soul, funk, and psychedelia into something entirely new, and Black households embrace its message of unity and celebration. The original epic pressing with the distinctive orange label is worth significantly more than later reissues because of the specific mastering that made the album sound so powerful. Stand became an anthem at protests and parties, its message of resilience speaking directly to Black communities fighting for equality. Sly Stone broke many rules about what Black music should sound like, and families who bought this album participated in a cultural revolution. The integrated band on the cover made a powerful statement during the civil rights era. Original copies with pristine covers and clean vinyl are increasingly rare because this album was played constantly in Black households. Aretha Franklin's Atlantic Records original pressings from the late 60s represent the Queen of Soul at her absolute peak, and they command serious prices. When Aretha left Columbia for Atlantic in 1967, she finally found producers who understood her genius, and albums like I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You became instant classics. Black households across America bought these records immediately, recognizing that Aretha was speaking their truth with a power no one else could match. The original Atlantic pressings with the green and orange labels are significantly more valuable than later editions because of their superior sound quality and historical importance. Respect became more than a song. It became a declaration of dignity that Black women especially embrace as their own anthem. Aretha's voice on original vinyl has a presence and warmth that later pressings cannot capture. Those families who kept their Aretha albums in excellent condition are now holding valuable pieces of American cultural history. Frank Wilson's Do I Love You is a $40,000 Motown holy grail that most collectors will never see in person. In 1965, this Motown songwriter recorded a single so rare that only 2 original copies are confirmed to exist today. Berry Gordy offered Wilson a choice between pursuing a singing career or becoming a staff producer, and Wilson chose producing. Nearly all 250 press copies were destroyed, making this the most valuable soul single ever recorded. One copy sold at auction for over 30,000 British pounds, stunning the collecting world. The song itself is a beautiful piece of Northern soul that became legendary on the British dance scene decades after its intended release was canceled. For Black families, the story represents the countless talents Motown developed who never got their chance to shine as artists. The few surviving copies are worth more than most houses, hidden treasures that could be sitting in any forgotten collection. Lee Moses' Time and Place is a private pressing masterpiece from 1971 that deep soul collectors consider one of the greatest albums ever made. This raw, emotionally devastating record was pressed in tiny quantities on the small Maple Records label and virtually disappeared until collectors rediscovered it decades later. Black families in certain regions might have picked up this album without realizing they were holding a future treasure. The original pressing is worth thousands of dollars because so few copies survived, and because the music itself is staggeringly powerful. Lee Moses sang with an intensity that stripped away everything false, delivering performances that still leave listeners shaken. The album went unnoticed by the mainstream music industry, but it developed a cult following among serious soul collectors who recognized its genius. For those lucky enough to find an original copy in a family collection, the discovery would be life-changing, both financially and musically. Gloria Barnes' Uptown is a rare Maple Records pressing from the early 70s that represents raw, gospel-inflected soul at its most powerful. This album was pressed in extremely small quantities and distributed only regionally, so most music fans never had a chance to hear it during its initial release. Black families in certain areas might have purchased the album and tucked it away, not realizing they were preserving something extraordinary. The original pressing is worth serious money because the album itself is magnificent, featuring Gloria's powerful voice soaring over arrangements that blend church fire with sophisticated soul. Collectors of deep soul considered this one of the essential albums from the era, a hidden gem that proves how much incredible Black music never received proper recognition. Finding an original Gloria Barnes album in a family collection would be a significant discovery, worth thousands of dollars to the right buyer seeking authentic private press soul. The Salvador Stick By Me Baby is an ultra-rare soul single that Harmony Group collectors will pay almost anything to own. This obscure 45 from the mid-60s on the small Wise World label features gorgeous vocal arrangements that rival anything from the major labels of the era. Black families who purchased this single at corner record shops had no idea they were buying something that would become legendarily scarce. The original pressing is worth thousands of dollars because so few copies were made and even fewer survived decades of use and neglect. The song itself is a beautiful piece of sweet soul that showcases the incredible vocal talent that existed in Black communities across America during this golden era. Many of these small label singles were pressed in quantities of only a few hundred copies, making survivors extraordinarily valuable. The Salvadors never achieved fame, but their single became a holy grail for serious collectors. Brief Encounter is a Carolina soul album from the mid-70s that features beautifully arranged harmonies, and it is worth thousands to collectors today. This group on the 77 label delivered a sophisticated sound that blended sweet soul vocals with tight arrangements, and it should have made them stars. Black families in the Carolinas may have supported this local group without realizing their album would become a coveted collector's item decades later. The original pressing is rare because the label had limited distribution and the album never reached a national audience during its initial release. Brief Encounter's sound represents the incredible depth of talent in regional Black music scenes that never received mainstream attention. Collectors of Carolina soul and beach music treasure this album for its heartfelt performances and polished production. Finding an original copy in a family collection would be a valuable discovery, proving how much extraordinary Black music remains hidden in attics and basements. Parliament Funkadelic original Westbound Records pressings from the early 1970s are now worth serious money, as funk music has become highly collectible. George Clinton built an empire of sound that changed popular music forever. Those early albums on Westbound captured the mothership before it went fully cosmic. Black households that embraced the weirdness and brilliance of funk were ahead of their time, buying albums that would influence hip-hop and electronic music for decades. The original Westbound pressings of albums like Osmium and Maggot Brain have a raw sound quality that later reissues cannot replicate. Clinton created a universe of characters, mythology, and groove that gave Black audiences permission to be strange, free, and funky all at once. These albums were played at house parties and cookouts across America, their messages of liberation spreading through Black communities. Original copies in excellent condition are now worth hundreds or thousands of dollars to collectors worldwide. Earth, Wind & Fire, first. Columbia Records pressings from the mid-70s captured one of the greatest live bands in history at their creative peak. Maurice White built a group that combined jazz sophistication, funk power, and spiritual uplift into something entirely new that Black audiences embraced completely. Albums like That's the Way of the World and Gratitude became essential purchases for Black households, their messages of positivity and love resonating deeply. The original Columbia pressings, with specific label designs and matrix numbers, are worth significantly more than later editions because of their superior sound quality. Earth, Wind & Fire represented Black excellence and aspiration, their elaborate stage shows and cosmic imagery inspiring entire generations. The horn arrangements, the vocal harmonies, and the tight rhythm section created a sound that remains unmistakable decades later. Original pressings in excellent condition are increasingly valuable to collectors seeking the authentic experience. Prince's The Black Album, the recalled 1987 pressing, is one of the most legendary withdrawn records in music history and is now worth a small fortune. Prince recorded this raw, funky album and then persuaded Warner Brothers to destroy all copies just before release because he believed the record was evil or cursed. Only a handful of promotional copies escaped destruction, making original pressings extraordinarily rare and valuable. Black families who somehow obtained copies held on to pieces of music history worth tens of thousands of dollars today. The album was finally released officially in 1994, but those original 1987 pressings remain the holy grail for Prince collectors. The music itself was a deliberate return to stripped-down funk after the more commercial Sign of the Times, featuring some of Prince's rawest performances. Finding an original Black album pressing would be a life-changing discovery, the kind of hidden treasure that collectors dream about but rarely encounter. Ohio Players. Honey First pressing on Mercury Records from 1975 is one of the most iconic funk albums ever created, and it is now highly collectible. The cover alone became legendary, featuring a beautiful Black woman dripping with honey in an image that was provocative, artistic, and unmistakably Black. Black households bought this album for the music and the cover, displaying it proudly in living rooms across America. The original Mercury pressing with the specific label design is worth significantly more than later editions because of its superior sound quality and the pristine condition of early covers. Songs like Love Roller Coaster became funk anthems that still fill dance floors today, their grooves as infectious now as they were decades ago. The Ohio Players represented Dayton funk at its finest, a regional sound that conquered the nation through pure talent and undeniable groove. Original copies with unblemished covers are increasingly rare and valuable because this album was displayed, handled, and loved intensely. Al Green High Records' original Memphis pressings from the early 70s captured the smoothest voice in soul music, and they are worth serious money to collectors today. When Al Green sang, he touched something deep in the souls of Black listeners. Albums like Let's Stay Together and I'm Still in Love with You became essential soundtracks for romance and heartbreak across America. The original High Records pressings, with their distinctive green label design, have a warmth and intimacy that later reissues simply cannot match, no matter how carefully they are mastered. Black households played these albums at low volume, late at night, Al's silky voice filling bedrooms with emotion that needed no words to explain. The Memphis sound that producer Willie Mitchell created for Al Green was a masterpiece of subtlety and groove, with every instrument perfectly placed in the mix. First pressings in excellent condition are increasingly valuable, as collectors seek the authentic experience of hearing Al the way he was meant to be heard on vinyl. Sam Cooke early recordings on Keen and RCA Victor represent the voice that invented modern soul music, and they carry deep emotional value for Black families. Before Sam Cooke, there was no template for what a Black pop star could be, and his smooth voice and elegant style opened doors for every soul singer who followed. Black households treasured his records not just as entertainment, but as proof that Black artistry could achieve anything. The early Keen Records pressings of songs like You Send Me are especially valuable because they document the birth of something revolutionary. Original pressings in excellent condition are worth thousands to collectors. When Sam Cooke was killed in 1964, under circumstances that still haunt Black communities, his records became sacred objects, connections to a voice silenced far too soon. Families held on to these albums for generations, passing them down as heirlooms that carried the memory of a man who changed everything. Otis Redding's final recordings before the tragic plane crash carry profound emotional weight for Black families who remember that terrible December day in 1967. Just days after recording Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Otis died in the plane crash that devastated the soul music community and left his greatest song to be released posthumously. Black households across America mourned together, and those who owned his records held on to them as precious memories of a voice that could express both pain and joy with equal power and conviction. The original Volt and Stax pressings of his albums are valuable not just for their rare status, but for what they represent: the last testament of a genius taken far too soon. Collectors understand that original Otis Redding vinyl carries a weight that goes beyond music into the realm of cultural memory and collective grief. Those albums sitting in family collections connect generations to a moment when Black America lost one of its brightest stars forever. Billie Holiday jazz 78s that grandparents held onto for decades represent the oldest treasures hiding in Black family collections today. These heavy shellac records from the 40s and 50s were the soundtrack to an earlier generation's struggles and triumphs, played on phonographs in small apartments in Southern homes. Grandmothers who loved Billie's voice kept those fragile 78s wrapped in cloth and stored safely, never imagining their grandchildren would inherit small fortunes. The original Commodore and Decca pressings of songs like Strange Fruit and God Bless the Child are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars to jazz collectors who understand their historical importance. For Black families, these records carry memories of grandparents now gone, of voices heard through scratchy speakers in kitchens and living rooms where stories were shared and lessons were taught. Those old 78s are more than collectibles. They are family history pressed into fragile grooves. Which of these records brought back the strongest memories? Drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe to keep these stories alive.